Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Acosta. I am a non-religious licensed minister, and today this is going to be a special video. I'm going to show you some things using a whiteboard here in order to show you what's going on. A lot of you are seeking healing. A lot of you having a lot of problems that are going on with your lives and in your body temple, because you have to remember that we are a spiritual being. We have an intellect and we live in a physical body. The body is always reflecting what's going on within ourselves, within our mind. We're going to get into that so that you can understand in a nutshell what is taking place, so you can start making some of the corrections that you need to do, that you need to make in order to start accepting the healing that's already there for you. All right? We'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome back. And so in order to understand what is going on with ourselves, right, we have to understand that when we ask God, when we speak, before we speak, he hears. When we ask, he's answered. In the same manner that when Peter asked Christ if he could bid him to come out onto the water, and he said, immediately answered, and Peter started walking on the water. Well, in the same sense, we immediately receive the healing. Now, we don't see it. And the reason is, and you're not going to hear this in a regular realm of church because they don't understand it other than the messages that we keep on preaching. This is your flesh body. Here is your spirit body. And they are two different things. Guard thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Now, the heart isn't the heart in the sense of the thing that's beating in your chest, but it is the soul. It is your subconscious, how we would say it scientifically. Your intellect is your conscious mind, the part that's listening to me now. It is also the part that has a deductive reasoning. We will hear something, and either we have the ability to reject that or accept that and understand and feel that. Right? Now, when children are very young, they are in what is called, I believe the child is in deductive reason. We use inductive reason. Deductive reason is where you have no ability, your conscious mind has no ability to reject. So they're absorbing everything, which is why schools right now are trying to teach children about gender identity at this age, hoping that their mind, being as deductive as it is, will go ahead and accept this philosophy. And if they are at that age, it will. That's why we are, as a country, that is really a ploy of the enemy to try to teach children this at the earliest age, knowing that a child doesn't even have the ability to decide whether he can till he's 21 to drink or not drink. But we're going to make decisions about your health and everything else. And let me just turn this off because I have this going. So back to what I was saying. Children at that age do not have the ability to reject. Well, because we don't understand what's going on, let me show you what is happening. Remember, I said, guard thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. This is the heart. And when we take in an idea, we hear it. Right, the Lord said, you speak of what you hear and what you see. I speak of the things of heaven. God speaks from over here, and he speaks it into our spirit being. Now, we don't understand that. We think it's taking place over here. And that's why when God sounds like you, it's really taking place over here. We're using the five senses: taste, smell, sight, hearing, touch. We're using our five physical senses in order to connect and determine and live in this world. The problem is that into this heart here, we're also taking the information based off of these. And we're bringing this information and we're taking it into the heart. And then that is what's popping up as a result. Now, when you take it from the spirit side, it doesn't really need the whole five physical senses. You understand it in the spirit side. You have to develop an understanding. That goes into the heart, and it shows up in the physical being and as a result. Which is why the Lord says you'll know them by their fruit. The fruit is coming from the Spirit. every man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. Those things, the words that proceeded out of the mouth of God, caused creation. They caused things to happen, and the word became flesh, right? Well, if we start to understand the spirit of it all, and it requires entering into the spirit, and this does not mean speaking in tongues. This does not mean any of that. You have to understand what I'm going to say right now, which is not taught, again, it's not taught in the church. Everything you see in nature around you, the little birds outside, that was first a thought in the mind of God, and then he spoke it, right? So it started on the spirit side and then moves over and is born on the material side. So we can't have, this is why God gave us, he made us in a physical being, because everything that's going on in spirit has to show up in the physical side, in the material side. That's how we know. You'll know them by their fruit. That's what's taking place. It's moving from one side, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so that's the way it functions. The problem is with healing, the problem is when something bad happens to any of us, when something hurts us and hurts our feelings and causes us to go through things, we take that hurt, that thing that happened, that anger that we feel, and let's just say the capital A, anger here. We take it in through our 5 senses, and we bring it, and it comes into the heart. And regarding your heart, for out of it are the issues of life, not the devil, not anything else. The things that we take into the heart that are brought in by the 5 senses. The outside is gaining on the inside. Spirit flows from the top down, from the inside out. Everything else is going from the outside in. We're seeing it, we're hearing it, we're watching it, and it's getting into the inside of us and causing a reaction. That is what is getting you. So let's say you're dealing with cancer, you are dealing with autoimmune disease. An autoimmune disease is usually a deep-rooted guilt of some sort. A guilt that something happened, even though we know better. It does not matter how we explain that it wasn't our fault. It doesn't matter that everyone else agrees that it wasn't our fault. But if that heart feels like you were at the depth, at fault, sometimes you are helping somebody that you do not want to help and you don't want to be helping, but you're doing it because you feel guilty. That's another one. Sometimes we've said something horrible to somebody. Maybe they deserved it, but on the inside. And so that is then showing up in your physical being and showing up in your results. Most autoimmune disease. You see people with, let's say, they have a sciatic nerve. They have degenerative disc. Those are people that have been carrying other people and carrying a burden that they did not want to carry, and they did not want to shoulder, and they've been shouldering it because they feel guilty and they've been shouldering it for a long time. That usually shows up as a degenerative disc disease. Cancer. Cancer is a negative energy being suppressed. Usually people that take in something that really just bury it down. We're going to bury it down. We're going to sit there. And it has to show up. It has to show up. Anything that moves into this heart, and I don't mean color it black, but if it moves in here, it is going to show up here. And then it's going to show up here. Every single time. So the way you are going to start to get rid of this is only one way. Forgive. Usually things, if they're really, really bad, they will show up roughly in about 2 to 3 years. 3 years, 4 or 5 years if they've been holding it, but they're not so angry. But when you remember that, if it was a horrible thing you remember and you feel like it just happened right now, that subconscious, this little heart right here, this little heart right here does not know that it didn't happen right now. It has no clue that it happened 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. This subconscious here, the soul, does not know the difference that if you are dreaming or you're awake or you're watching a movie. You can be watching a movie and the movie will scare you and you'll jump. And you've seen this before, but it's the one that's causing the jump. It's also the one that causes all the actions. When you are driving, you don't even have to think about the wheel and stepping on the brake. And even if you're driving a manual shift, you're shifting the gears, it automatically is doing that. A baby takes so long to walk because he has to impress onto the heart, onto the subconscious mind, all the actions that need to take place in order to walk. And once they start walking, they want to run too, right? It's because it has to be impressed. When a person is suffering from worry and doubt, right? When they don't understand the spirit aspect of what I'm saying right now, it's natural for a person to take something that's going on in their life and turn it into a worry and a doubt. What's that? COVID. They have a worry and they have a doubt, right? That worry and doubt, when it moves into the subconscious mind, the heart here, it becomes fear. Fear impressed onto the physical being becomes anxiety. Anxiety isn't expressed. Anxiety is suppressed, and it becomes depression. Depression becomes disease. Disease becomes decay. And in reality, we begin to kill ourselves because we're taking all this from the outside and we're implementing it in, and we keep feeding this negative seed. So, all the diseases that are coming, almost every single one has the idea fixed within the heart that is showing up. That's what's happening. So, when we take from the fact that God said, by his stripes you were healed, 2 Peter, right? It's in the book of Peter, second book of Peter. By his stripes you were healed. You can look it up, you can just Google it. That already took place. What took place? The healing. So they would say the H. The healing. The healing is already moving into my spirit. I received it. It's moving into the spirit. Now I got to get in here. But I can't get it in there. I can't get it in there because I got the other problem in there. They haven't forgiven. So this is why it's so important to forgive. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is for me. It's so that the damage that was done doesn't live rent-free in your life and in your heart, causing you more problems. Come on, work with me. More problems that you don't want. So we have to forgive. We have to let it go. And understand that when anything happens, anything at all, there's a 3-step process. First, either you're going to control it or it's going to control you. If it is coming from here, it's going to control you. If you take it from the step of where that God is also allowing you to learn from this, you're going to control the situation. All right? Accept that it happened. Don't sit there and fight with the whys. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? You better. Don't do that. Accept that it happened. Number 2, harvest all the good. Harvest all the good. Start looking for the good that you need to learn from it. See, we like to blame other people. We like to blame the devil, especially in Christians. Every time you blame the devil, you're losing the accountability of yourself and what it's telling you about you. The same way that a heat-seeking rocket is guided by negative feedback. As long as it's going to the target, it flies perfectly. When it goes off the target, it starts until it comes back. We are also guided by negative feedback. The negative feedback is guiding us to move right back into the area that we need to go to. And so that is the feedback that we're getting when we are plagued with problems and disease. And when you understand that as I take the idea in and the healing works in this way. Must be forgiven in order to sit here. When you can look back on the situation and you no longer see it the same and you see the benefit for you, you've let it go. That's good. That's the area that you need to be there in order to receive the healing. Now you can, by his stripes you were healed. Now you need to take this in. Be able to see it in your mind. If you cannot see it, you cannot have it. Period. God will never do for you what you cannot see him do through you. Right? It is Christ in you, the hope of glory. You have to understand this. Another thing, Try not to be. Religion comes from here. Religion. Because it's man trying to explain what the Bible was saying. It's man trying to explain what God meant. Spirit. Here, spirit is for fuller expression and further expansion. The Spirit quickeneth. That means that it speeds up. It incites you to move. It wants to get you to go, not to stay in the same place and not to stay comfortable, to get going. Spirit is always trying to express. Everything you see around you is an expression in nature. It's an expression of spirit. It is a thought in a visible form, is what it is. We know this if we go into quantum physics. We understand that everything in existence has a thought in it first. Everything is created twice. First in the imagination and then on the outside. First on the inside and then on the outside, even the bad. Okay? First in the inside and then on the outside. What did Van Gogh say? He says, when I sleep, I dream, and when I wake, I paint my dreams. It's exactly like that. Every single time it's exactly like that. And we have to understand that originally science was not bought by investors. Now you can go and you can find a report trying to prove anything you want to prove. If you want to prove why this man is a woman or identifies as a woman, we can figure out something that's going to help prove that, because that's what we want to do. And we're paying enough money to try to get something like that, regardless of anything else. And we're going to prove things that always are. That's why everything's so conflicting, right? If you see why vitamin C is good for you, there's going to be a report coming around the corner that's going to tell you why vitamin C is bad for you. Now, you're going to take in, this is what makes it difficult with the science aspect today and studies today. But a long time ago, we understood these things before science was being bought out by money. We're talking like 1950s and before 1950s. And once the idea of the healing in the correct visual aspect goes into the heart, and we start to become grateful for it every day. See yourself being there, being grateful for it every day. And on one of those, it doesn't happen in between while you're not doing it, but your whole conversation has to change to fit the healing that you received in spirit. Once it finally goes into the heart, it shows up in the physical being immediately. But you can tell by the fact that it's not, when it hasn't shown up physically, you can tell that it hasn't shown up and found its place in the heart. What did the Lord say? Unless a kernel is planted into the ground, which is here, and rots, more kernels don't come up. That's what this means. That's exactly what this means. It doesn't mean anything else. We've learned to take the word, and we get there, and everyone wants to be a Bible term interpreter, and we want to interpret the Bible our own way. We have all types of revisions and interpretations of Bibles because people make money by selling Bibles. Some people have every single Bible, some people have 2 or 3, and some people specifically like only certain ones. It must flow. It must flow from God, and you're not going to see it all the time. It's received in the Spirit. It is a seed that has to be taken in the Spirit, and by thought and action and understanding, implanted into the heart so that it shows up in the physical being, so that it shows up in your environment. And if you start to tell other people about it, don't run in. Remember the Lord, He healed a couple people. He healed a couple of people that were not amongst a big crowd, just in secret. He says, do not tell anyone. Now, we think it's because we don't want him. He's healing people on the outside, in front of everybody, and he's healed people in secret. But the ones that are in secret, they receive the healing. Let me show you. I had... Sometimes it is difficult for us to accept physically from this side that the healing has taken place. And we start to doubt. And like Peter, we will sink. The healing, even though it landed over here, will disconnect because it's still fresh. And the old way of thinking has been there for so long. We have had information. We didn't get the way we are overnight. We didn't leave from falling out of the garden and then end up over here where Christ is redeeming us overnight. This happened over a long course of time, and we have a lot of information in there that has to change in order for us to get the results that we really want to get. Christ in you, Like I said, spirit is for full expression and further expansion. Christ in you, the hope of glory, is seeking expression to and through you. That's what it means, right? It's what it means. And a lot of people will not believe. I can't believe. I'm very surprised that a lot of Christians don't want to believe. You have to understand that this is us. And here is the perimeter that we live in. And we live in these walls. And this is what we believe. We don't know. That's why we believe. Believe means you're uncertain. Okay, but it takes belief. It takes belief to come out here and take this. That's what believe. So you have to believe in order to come get it. A person that cannot believe and doesn't believe it cannot leave the perimeter of this wall. Technically, if you want to think about it in the sense of the Bible terms, they're stuck in Egypt. They're stuck in a place they cannot leave because it takes belief to get over here. Okay, so if you do not believe, if you don't not have that belief, you cannot do it. You will remain in where you believe. And that's it. Why? Because as a man thinketh in his heart, the heart is going to be in here, so is he. And in order to be able to heal from that, you have to be able to let go of the thing that caused the affliction. Learn to look at it a different way to where it's benefiting you in your heart, benefiting you in your life, so that you can grow from. All these things are so that we can grow into what? The image and the likeness of God. God created man in the image and the likeness of himself. Do we really believe that when Adam and Eve fell in the garden, he just gave up on the whole plan and said, you know what? They messed up my plan. It failed. Let's go to plan B. No. God never has a plan B. Do you know that most people that have a backup plan, that have a plan B, fail 98% of the time at plan A? So we know that God never had a plan A. We are in plan A. This is plan A. And the word says, and you might not hear this. The reason you do not hear this the way I am telling it to you is because when the Lord died on the cross, when he died on the cross and he was on here, right? And he died on the cross, there is, I'm going to just do this as feet. I'm really just showing the feet. I'm not going to get into the whole drawing of the hands and everything. What did it say? What did the Lord say when Adam and Eve fell? He talked to the serpent. He talked to the woman. I'm going to put enmity between your seed and her seed. And his head will bruise his heels. And his heel will crush his head. Do you understand what this means also? That is the whole problem of the serpent is the five senses that we're taken from. An animal. What do they think of? Animals are concerned with food, water, shelter. Most people that have let go of the spirit side are concerned with what? Food, water, shelter. Like an animal, right? Will bruise his heel. Why? Because even though we watched everything that happened with Christ, we were not going to get it immediately. Because bruised heels walk very slowly. They walk very slowly. And it says that there was a time when miracles would cease. Well, there's only two ways that miracles can cease. Only two ways. One, God changes. God never changes. So we know that's not it. Number two, what is the definition of a miracle? The definition of a miracle is something that we cannot explain and we do not know how it works. Well, now we can explain it. We understand how this works. Not everybody in church and not everybody that's reading the Bible understands how this works. I understand how this works. I'm trying to teach you how this works. We can explain it. So the word miracle is something that we can't explain. But once you explain it, that word ceases to be. If you need more help, here is this book. Let the answer sink in. Because the answer of your healing, the answer of the change you're seeking, the answer of everything you're asking for must sink in to that heart. It must, in order to show up in your physical being, in order to show up in your environment. It is already within the heart as a seed. When you understand, when you ask God for it, you have already gotten it immediately. It's already there. Learn to see it. This is what I explained to you here. What I explained to you here. Physical, spirit. And here's the little heart, right? Here's where you've been taking it in. But now we're going to put new wine into new bottles. And it's going to come in here where it needs to go. The heart is going to receive from God so that the physical being... See, in Psalms 82, it talks about since the fall that everything has been out of course. If you watch one of my videos, it says, heaven is order's first law. In Psalms 82, it says that everything has been out of course since the beginning. And it has been. Spirit, flesh, God. And yes, God is inside of you. The kingdom is within you. But we're bringing into the kingdom from this side. The correct order. And you'll know them by their fruit. It's not the character. It's not just the character. The character is a representative of understanding. When you understand that you're connected and this works exactly like this, one of the first things you're going to understand is calmness. You're going to have self-control. You're going to have right thinking because your thought is going to be playing the biggest role. I hope I've helped some of you. If you have any questions, you can always go through the link for the Facebook link. Reach out in the messenger and I will help you. A lot of people aren't going to believe a lot of things. Listen, if we told everyone right now that the earth was round, there's going to be a few people out there going to say the earth is flat. They're going to argue about everything. People argue about everything. And the sad part about it is in the terms of God, they're the same way. They're the same way. And because they can't understand it and they can't get out of the bubble of what they believe, they don't have a belief to reach anything more. Christ in you, the hope of glory. That's for a reason. Seeking expression to and through you. God moves to and through you. And if you start to understand that, you'll see David and Goliath, God moved to and through him. Moses parting the Red Sea, God moved to and through him. There's no point in having the kingdom inside of you for any other reason. And when we start to see these and experience these things, we start to build a real relationship with God. We can talk about how close we are to God. We can talk about how good of a golfer we are. But at the end of the day, the scorecard tells the truth. At the end of the day, our environment and what's going on in our lives tells the truth. What did it say in Psalms 82 again? It says to help the poor and the needy out of the hand of the wicked. So being poor and needy is in the hand of the wicked. Well, in reality, what is it? That they don't see the relationship with God. What did God say to the prodigal son? Not the prodigal son, but the other son. What I have is yours. What's mine is yours. All the things on this planet is for us here as a training ground so that we can develop into what? The image and the likeness of God. Christ in you, the hope of glory. And until this gospel gets out there, it's not gonna happen. We need to be able to understand these things so that the truth starts to get out. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. And I understand this does not sound like what you've heard, and it does not understand like what you've heard for years and years and years. But I tell you, as I learned, one day I had my face swole, and I need a root canal. And it was a Saturday, and I was going to be able to see a dentist till Monday. Understanding how this worked, my face swelling went all the way back down within about an hour. And I was grateful for the healing of my tooth. And I get out to the dentist just because I had already had an appointment made over the weekend. I need to come see him, yada, yada. And the root canal that was there There was evidence he could see that it was there, but it filled up. There was still some cavitation on the bottom. There's cavitation on the bottom, but in between the tooth, it had filled up. That's not the only thing. Things happen all the time. I can go on and on. That's just something small that I'm giving you so that you understand that this works all the time. Curing cancer is no harder than curing the common cold. And people have struggled to cure the common cold. It's not difficult at all. Don't make it difficult in your mind. A baby does not struggle to learn Chinese. And it's not harder for you as an adult, but because you think it is, it becomes harder. You yourself, we ourselves set up the barriers. There is no barrier. When you understand the way this works, you'll start to find out that the only limitation and the only lack in limitation that you have are the ones that you impose upon yourself. The books will be in the links in the description. I'm hoping this helped somebody, and if you know somebody else that it will help, share it with them. If you have people that are skeptic and they're not going to believe it, they're not going to take it, it's no point in sharing it with them until they're ready to receive something, usually until the person's back is to the wall, until the doctors have given them no other option that they'll take this. I mean, even herbal medicine works better than a lot of medicine. Doctors are using what they have and what they're allowed to use, which is if you took a pie and you took a slice of pie out of it, that's what the doctor is allowed to use, a slice of pie. They don't use everything else. So, all right, God bless. Talk to you later. And do not forget, if you don't mind, to hit subscribe and like and share this with somebody. All right? Talk to you later. God bless.